the takeoff point for the IPL is all the marquee names joining in. The skill quotient of players across the board, across nationalities, is going up.
So was it worth paying the money you get when he plays only 3 or 4 games in a season?
See, the financial dynamics of the IPL are a story in itself. Shane Warne's influence on not just the Rajasthan team but on the IPL remains enormous. Once we were on the stage, I said, this is going to be like freewheeling, no holds barred. He says, not at all. That's the way I've lived my life.
Isn't there a drink named after him?
This water, I know. Bailey's water.
It's in the air. It's a 6.
Welcome to Century of Stories Cricket. I am one of the finest right-arm fast bowlers that has ever not played for India. That's why I'm scratching my lip because of the lies. But with me, pulling at his ear is Ayaz Memon, legendary journalist, writer, commentator, very much commentator, and newscaster, panelister.
Yes.
Because that's the new shape of people who talk about cricket.
Ever-expanding lexicon.
Hey, Ayaz, what is this? All analysts in... No, yeah, but in India, everyone is an analyst. What's the big deal? But you're professional.
Why not?
You get paid.
I get paid.
That's the only difference. Yeah. Does it irritate you after some time? Because people like me meet you at parties or events or whatever, and I'm always asking you questions and you have to answer, but that's your profession. You should take money for it.
And I like to listen to other opinions also. So
and then laugh.
Far-fetched it may be or not. But I think it's great.
Yeah.
The sense of involvement is so wonderful to watch and hear.
And the sport of ranking players and teams will never end. And giving your 5 paisa or 5 paisa, so to speak.
But that's part of human nature. No? It's a trait. People always compare. Even within their own family. This uncle is better than that uncle.
Yeah.
So why not amongst players?
Well, in the Amarnath family for sure, because a lot of them played. Let's talk about today's topic, which is a little left off center, if you don't mind, and that is foreign influence in the IPL over the years. The foreign players, their contribution, was it worth it? Did they help the franchise? Did they help cricket in general? And of course, we'll tie it with county cricket and the fact that there's also a few occasions of red ball cricket, first class cricket in India having foreigners. But let's start at the top. What is your take on the foreign influx?
I think that's been one of the strong points of the league, of the IPL. It's been one of the strengths. It's also added so much flavor and so much, such wonderful dimension.
Let's start with that number 4. 4 can play. How do you... Because I remember growing up, 2 in the county circuit was normal.
Yes.
I think maybe for some time they tried 3, but 2 generally.
Yes.
Right?
On the county circuit, they used to have 2 overseas players. They may have on their
roster a few more.
Yeah.
But so 4 playing...
Like there was Gavaskar, Joel Garner and Viv Richards.
Somerset, yes.
Somerset,
100%. Coming back to the IPL, so 4, is it too much? There's always that argument that then it's like almost like they're half the team literally.
Well, that's the playing 11. You can't... So the idea... First the logic, let's understand. So one is that the IPL has become a great melting pot of cricket cultures as well as, people rubbing shoulders of very different talents and experience, and therefore it becomes very vibrant and rich, in my opinion. I think overall it has helped Indian cricket enormously, this experience of playing with foreign players, and it's also helped the foreign players. So it's not just been a one-way thing.
Let's take an example when you say something like that. For example, Bumrah starts his career with the great Lasith Malinga.
Yes.
And by the time Malinga goes into oblivion or retirement, Bumrah gets better and better, and today he is arguably the best in the world, the best of his generation.
Yes.
So would you say that Malinga played a role in so the IPL having foreigners then to
I would be surprised
properly?
if he didn't. I'm sure he did. And not just Bumrah and Malinga, that's not the only nexus. So in the IPL, for instance, in 2020, 21 or 24, you're also playing with against Pat Cummins or a Mitchell Stark or some other fast bowler, and you're learning something every day. You're also giving off something of yourself because you're being exposed to them. And I thought it was the fascinating aspect was when the Border Gavaskar Trophy was played. Here was Bumrah in Australia outperforming the Aussie bowlers. And with so much learned from watching them, not just in Australia on previous tours, but also seeing them in the IPL perhaps talking to them, perhaps discussing skills. I think that's the richness of the
I'm
IPL.
understanding your point here, which is it's like a bit like weight training, where the senior professional working with the weaker personality gets better. He benefits from it in a sense. Okay, weaker is the wrong word to use,
Yeah.
but the novice or the newbie comes into the IPL setup, and thanks to the names you mentioned, suddenly their game gets enhanced more than anybody else's.
So I think that the skill quotient of players across the board, across nationalities, is going up. Yes, be it for T20.
But that also means that they get to play in India, so they tend to get better in these conditions.
They tend, that's
So we're helping them.
Yes.
What's
that
going
happens. That happens.
Oh.
But that's fine. Ultimately the league is to showcase skills for a certain format, but there will be developments that happen for the better or to the detriment of the players in other formats.
There's also training styles you're exposed to: Australian culture, English culture, South African culture, West Indian
Training,
culture, Sri
diet,
Lankan. Yeah.
workload management, mental, how do you cope with it mentally? Because now so much of sport, as we all know, is played first in the mind and then it's played on the field. It's turned out to be that way. I mean, initially there were lots of people wondering why the hell should we have so many overseas players coming in, but without the overseas players, you wouldn't have a league.
It's become an Indian Union issue
It would
also.
become- yeah.
Yeah.
So
But let's again get specific here. I'm going to throw some names because this is the fun part of this episode. And you tell me if they've overachieved or underachieved, as politely as we can, in terms of their performance in the IPL and the money that we sort of paid for them, where we can remember how much. Please correct us if we're wrong. We're happy. We're not chartered accountants by profession. But let's look at some names. I'm going back to 2007-8, the early part. Shoaib Akhtar comes to mind. He was... I love to watch Shoaib Akhtar bowl. He's one of those guys people love to watch bowl, even at the end of his career.
Yeah. So I mean, but
didn't play much.
He didn't play much because after 2 years, the Pakistan players were not included in the IPL.
Right.
So, but he had a couple of sterling performances for KKR.
I think there's one 3-wicket or 4-wicket haul that I remember.
Yes, and
Yeah.
bowling at express pace.
Yeah.
To watch that kind of pace in the context of a domestic
So was it
tournament.
worth paying the money you get when he plays only 3 or 4 games in a season and then...
See, the financial dynamics of the IPL are a story in itself. How much should one pay? I mean, should one pay 7
you can only
crore or
answer that
20?
post the season, I suppose.
Yeah. And it's not just restricted or limited to performance necessarily. It could be to your brand value, what you bring to the team in terms of its aura, and then therefore the financial health of the franchise. Also, these are all considerations. But primary consideration is cricket, obviously. Otherwise, why would you choose a player and not play him? So I think that if you look at it from the first season itself, the IPL gets off to a flying start for 2 reasons. One is the best cricketing talent joins the league. There was a rival league also at that point in time.
The ICL. Which
ICL.
had just started.
Yeah, which had actually 2 mega stars at that point in time, Brian Lara and Inzamamul Haq, who were not part of the IPL, they were part of the ICL.
Correct.
But of course, they were banned from playing
They
in the
couldn't
IPL.
coexist
But
together.
almost the entire great Aussie lineup, came and joined the IPL, from Ponting to Shane Warne to Adam Gilchrist.
Right.
And all
Brett Lee.
Matthew Hayden, all of them, they started playing the IPL. There was the English...
Andrew Simons.
The Indian... all the iconic stars and also the lesser stars, all
And
the
the
upcoming
stars.
Upcoming stars. So you had Tendulkar, Dravid, Kumble, Lakshman, Ganguly, all of them. Also upcoming Virat Kohli, Mahendra Singh Dhoni, of course. And when you had them, then you had all the New Zealand big guns. I mean, those who hadn't joined the ICL, they joined the IPL. So it was a very good mix. The South Africans came. And in that sense, it became a melting pot of, exchanging experiences, skill sets, sharing secrets, so to speak, and therefore helping, I think, for the sport to become better.
Now, again, very tough question to ask you, but who would you rank? Let's not put a number to it. Let's look at some of the best performers from overseas that have played in the IPL and have made the product even better. Chris Gayle for me would be the first name that comes to mind. No brainer.
Chris Gayle is a very dominant, figure in the history of T20 cricket.
Before RCB, he was at Kolkata and a couple of others, right? He floated around before he found his niche.
Yes.
And then,
So the 3 players who strike me as being, they just lifted the IPL to another level. One was Chris Gayle, the other was AB de Villiers, and the third, in my opinion, is Lasith Malinga.
Right.
For Mumbai Indians.
May I add Shane Watson into that mix?
Shane Watson,
and
not
to some
for
extent,
as many years.
Dwayne Bravo.
Yeah, but I'm saying these 3 become, in a sense, the
fulcrum.
The fulcrum of their own teams. I mean, AB de Villiers, Mr. Whatever it is,
360 or
degrees.
482 by the
Whatever,
time he ended. All
Chris
corners.
Gayle for the manner in which he just mauled bowlers.
There's no more dominant T20 player, I think.
And also, let's not forget one thing, where the IPL has also helped the other boards. West Indies cricket was kind of in a black hole.
Yeah.
It just gave a sense of belonging
Yeah.
to the cricket world for the players, young players especially, and not so young like Gale and Bravo and Kieran Pollard. Again, another guy who very dominant figure.
His entire career is IPL would be
based-
80% of that.
yes,
He didn't really play that much for the West Indies.
For
And
the
then-
South Africans, so many of the South Africans, not just Jacques Kallis.
Yeah.
There were other players who came and made it big in the IPL. I mean, recently, Andre Klaassen is a case in point. He just earned so much renown as a T20 player because of what he did in the IPL and then subsequently for South Africa and T20 international. So it's helped the cricket boards of Sri Lanka, West Indies,
New Zealand to some extent.
New Zealand to a large extent. The takeoff point for the IPL is all the marquee names joining in, the money being paid and the auction and the team auction which caught and gripped the imagination of the people. And then what happened in the first match? Lalit Modi in one of his interviews recently mentioned
Fairytale,
Yeah, the first match KKR versus RCB played at Bangalore, where Brendan McCullum went berserk. 158. He smashed in whatever number 50 balls.
I mean, that was just perfect. The perfect
it just
setting.
It just kind of lit up not just the stadium. It just lit up the tournament. And the IPL hasn't looked back since then. It just got better and bigger in terms of its spectatorship and its appeal to an audience that is now global. The IPL is the most watched cricket tournament in the world. So, and it's also, the reason for that is also because of the overseas talent which is there. And, it's a given
it makes
that
it highly competitive as
highly
well.
competitive. So, no other competition has such a huge participation of, overseas players. Not the Big Bash, not the Caribbean Premier, or if it has, not all the great marquee names.
Right.
Also,
don't forget, India is not allowed to play. So our squad...
Indians are not allowed to play. And therefore, in a sense, when you look back, one of the big worries was that, India will, get sucked into T20 and lose their prowess in tests and ODIs. That's not happened.
We're allowed only one tournament while you're actively playing for India.
So in that sense, that 4-player limit has helped. You can only have 4 overseas players taking the field, and 7 have to be Indian. There's the number of people, capped and uncapped players, and the price differentials and all that. One eye was always there on, making sure that the pipeline of Indian talent is sustained or maintained. But look at it also from overseas players. It's not just about the Aussies and the Kiwis and the West Indians and South Africans. Look at what's happened with Afghan players from Afghanistan. Rashid Khan, is now a global superstar.
Amongst the best in this format and possibly also in all formats.
In my opinion, he's amongst, wherever he plays, he's amongst the first 2-3 picks for any tournament, whether it's in the Caribbean, whether it's in South Africa or in the Big Bash or in the IPL. Everybody wants Rashid Khan. And then some of the, about 8 or 9 players of the Afghanistan team play in the IPL.
Correct.
And their improvement is showing. Even in the ODI World Cup, the Afghan team did really well.
The T20 reached the semi-final?
Yeah, reached the semi-final. So, it's been, from an overseas point of view, that's been of great benefit. South Africa, suddenly they've become a test, prowess, test cricket powerhouse. They are in the final of the WTC. So, I think it has helped. But it's not that only the overseas stars have kind of made a huge difference. Some have bombed.
Flintoff.
Andrew Flintoff, for the price he got at 2008-9. I mean, that time he was a big star, And then Kevin Peterson, a very big star, he didn't quite live up to his reputation.
Correct.
There have been a few of this kind also. On the other hand, guys have used the IPL as a launch pad to their careers. David Warne, they just about started their careers, but what they did in the IPL caught the attention of even the Australian selectors.
Correct.
Or players who were here playing for Australia at that point in time, like Ricky Ponting. And says...
And that's another interesting thing to bring up, because Ricky Ponting and then Sachin Tendulkar playing the same team together.
Yes.
2 of the best batsmen of their generation. Also, the rivalries that you saw in international cricket, it changes completely. Harbhajan Singh and Andrew Simons in decking
and
charges.
Kumble.
Yeah, Shane Warne, exactly.
Best. So, obviously, when you get participants from Australia, from South Africa, from New Zealand, from England, the English were the slowest in that sense to be committed to the IPL. You had Flintoff and Peterson, who were it didn't really set the Ganges on fire, so to speak, or the Hooghly, but they were star attractions at that point in time.
But it was the second half of the IPL, let's say after the 6 or 7, the more and more English cricketers are there as well.
The money is so big.
I think the boards also realize, the ECB or whatever it's called today, also realizes that you have to play the IPL for white ball cricket to
Yes. Also, I think the
improve your
money
skills.
factor is very important, and therefore it's tom-tommed. But I also think that what makes a difference to cricketers are performing artists, and the kind of adulation and attention they receive playing in India, in any format, white ball or red ball, but IPL particularly, because it's just such high interest.
And they can't understand why we send security guards with them until the crowds.
Correct,
They're
and
walking
therefore
on the
they
road
their confidence also goes up. They all want to play in the IPL. I don't think there are.
Travis said last week that he will only play IPL as in terms of T20 franchise cricket.
Correct.
So it's international
Why
cricket
do you
and
want to play
IPL.
something
He's
else?
not going to play Big Bash or anything else. Yeah.
Take for instance Mitchell Starc or even Pat Cummins. They were in and out. Mitchell Starc, I think a couple of times
Said yes and then didn't turn up.
didn't turn up.
Yeah.
And then when he did turn up, he went for the highest price that season, 25 crore.
Last year, yeah.
Pat Cummins was just a little behind him.
Correct.
He'd also been in and out. So they are managing their own workload, but now they know to manage your own workload is one part, but to be part of the IPL is also important.
Yeah.
And for fast bowlers especially, remember they're both, Mitch Starc is approaching his mid-30s.
34, 35 and 31. Pat Cummins
yes.
31, yeah.
So, and they've done it most astutely, these Aussies, I think.
I think now you're trained, if you're a foreigner, that you got to play for your country and do IPL.
But they are also very focused on Test cricket.
Correct.
And they have also been focused on, that's why they won the World Cup, ODI World Cup. They focused on that. And T20 they won in 2021. So I think in their own management of players and
The Australian style is very clear. I think with the fast bowler, it's like as you reach the end of your career, you play IPL. For the batsman, it's you play IPL.
I think the choice here is also of the players. It's not, I don't think the Australian Cricket Board can tell Pat Cummins, you will only play when you're 35, focus on Test cricket till then. I don't think that is, that's not possible. It's just proper management. They managed it. I think the Indians have managed it as well in many ways, because India has been the most consistent performing team across formats.
Right.
So, but overall, the picture is that the IPL is a great training ground as well as a tournament which provides the handsomest rewards. So everybody wants to be there. And ultimately, if you're of a certain caliber, you want to be, everybody wants to be in the same club as the best or the most renowned or
But
the
it's
most
also
famous.
a bit cruel because it's ruthless and immediate. So if you have a couple of poor seasons, and you're suddenly out of the thing or your value goes down from 10 crores to you're at the starting base price of 1 crore, whatever it is right now.
It can happen.
And that's also like a slap on the face for a legend or a famous cricketer.
But look at it the other way. There's been also the launchpad for so many players. People, from the Indian point of view, from an Indian perspective, lots of players who you would think were born in the boondocks where cricket is concerned.
Right.
They've all become household names now.
Yeah.
Rinku Singh.
Yeah.
He's part of the Indian team. Within 2 or 3 seasons.
Going back to Swapnil Asrotkar and Shane Warne.
So yes, but if you don't sustain that form or that that level of expertise, then you could be on your backside out of the system in a sense. So and I think overseas players are also now kind of targeting or making their intent clear that they want to be part of the IPL, because even their own selectors or home authorities take notice of what's happening in the IPL.
Everybody's cleared the window for you to play IPL, or at least more than half the
More
IPL.
than any other league, it's a notch higher or a couple of notches higher. So the competitive edge is greater because of the pressure and the demands of the franchises and all things considered.
In the IPL, the records for the highest score, the best bowling figures, and even most catches in a match are all held by foreign players. Yeah, foreign players. The highest score is 175, scored by Chris Gale for RCB in 2013 when I was a young lad. The best bowling figures belong to his fellow West Indian Alzari Joseph, who took 6 for 12 for Mumbai Indians in 2019. And then Mohammad Nabi of Afghanistan and Daryl Mitchell of New Zealand share the record for most catches in a match by snapping 5 catches in a match in 2021 and 2024 respectively. There's a precedent in India of foreigners coming and playing, foreign cricketers, famous ones coming and playing in the past.
Very stray in the past, in the 50s largely.
Yeah.
The services team, we had Dennis Compton coming.
Yeah.
I think he also played for
Holkar.
Holkar.
Yeah,
He
after
played
that,
for Holkar.
yeah.
There
Yeah.
was
So there was that sort of culture. It's not just England which gave the opportunity to the professionals to come and play.
England
We had that
was the
proper professional
mother
job.
country and
Yeah,
had
yeah.
all had counties. There's 18 counties, 20 counties, whatever number of, and they in fact the counties used to go prospecting to the Caribbeans to look for players. Talent scouts would go. That's how Viv Richards and
I felt
Andy
in the
Roberts
80s,
and
the West
some of the
Indies were
others
the most in
chosen.
demand.
Yes.
And then the Pakistanis.
Pakistanis.
And not so many Indians.
Indians chose actually not
to go.
Indians, Mama's boys, they didn't want to spend summers.
Farouk Engineer, Sunny, Ravi Shastri come to mind, but not too many
But
more.
Farouk Engineer was a
Then
pro, blue.
Then he became a Lancastrian.
Venkat Raghavan, Kapil Dev.
Yeah.
These are guys. In recent years, actually, more
Anil
Indians have played.
Kumble, Tendulkar in Yorkshire.
Tendulkar, Ajinkya Rahane, Cheteshwar
Cheteshwar
Pujara.
Pujara, yes.
Yeah, there's talk of so many other. Zahir Khan, who went on to hone his skills in county cricket.
So it works both ways. When you get to work in the other conditions, you just become
of
better
course,
for it. So
it's a different format. But you see, what I feel, Cyrus, is that like you and I are doing a show on cricket, but we could, off the camera, we could even be talking about politics or economics or films. I'm saying
the
that
globalization of humanity.
So in the IPL, you're playing T20. You're traveling together. I mean, the KKR boys are traveling
That's
together
true. That's
with
true.
Mitch Marsh. And at breakfast, they're talking to him about today's game, tonight's game, how to grip the ball, how to use the seam or not use the seam, what is a cross seam delivery to bowl to which batsman. And then, hey, Mitch, I think I'm actually wanting to play. I'm coming up with a Ranji Trophy match in 2 months' time. What do I do? So he'll say in red ball cricket, this is what
A
you
great
need to
example is the BGT. I remember watching Pat Cummins at net practice or just before the game, chatting with Nitish Kumar Reddy.
Yes.
Because obviously the captain and young lad in the team, etc.
This is a phenomenon which is now common in modern cricket, that people trade information and share their skills, the secrets of their skills. That's now given. Earlier, I mean, Malcolm Marshall and Imran Khan, they have acknowledged that they learnt a lot about fast bowling from Dennis Lilly. But that chance would come once in 5 years, or
Right.
7 years, or
When you
10
tour.
years when you toured,
Yeah.
or Imran played a season for New South Wales, or Marshall played for whoever. But otherwise, either they toured your country or you toured there, or you met on the county circuit. But here, this is every year it's happening, and if you're a stayer on the circuit, IPL circuit, then the opportunities just keep growing. And likewise, it works for them. To understand Indian conditions, understand Indian spin, they also benefit. I mean, imagine you're in the same team with an R. Ashwin or a Ravindra Jadeja or a Muralitharan or a Kumble. It's a dream come true for a young spinner.
Yeah.
From overseas also.
Going back right to the first IPL where Shane Warne becomes captain of Rajasthan Royals.
Yes.
And then, takes them with unheralded players for the most part, maybe Jadeja, unheralded players for the most part, to the final and then to victory as well.
He was a phenomenon.
Unbelievable.
Wasn't he? I mean, he was incredible. He was intrepid. He was very
Everybody
bold, brave.
everybody talks about him as a leader that should have been for Australia, but this is a cross-cultural leader.
Yes.
With all kinds of people. People who didn't speak English, or people who were a generation after him, all that. But he was able to...
He talked the language of cricket,
Yeah.
and I think he had extraordinary leadership qualities. So not just in theory, cricket theory, but about, people.
Yeah.
People talk of, he was a people's man. Shane Warne was that. Yusuf Pathan, he made him into a star.
Right.
Then he made, Shane Watson was one who flourished under his playing for Rajasthan.
Right.
Warne himself, and then there was so many of these Rajasthan players. The first season, who thought Rajasthan would win?
Correct.
And they haven't won since, but that's a different matter. But Shane Warne's influence on not just the Rajasthan team, but on the IPL remains enormous. Though he didn't have much success as a captain after that. But I think his contribution to making the IPL,
So without thinking, if I asked you to name your top 5 foreigners, again, I'm on the spot.
3 I've mentioned at the start.
Yeah. We'll stay with them.
Yeah.
So
Chris
Gale, AB de Villiers, Malinga. Give me 2
Malinga.
more.
Shane Warne, certainly.
Shane Warne, but he didn't play long enough, but you still want to put him up there.
Yeah, the influences. I mean, the first season itself was all about Shane Warne.
Right.
And and the fifth one would be a tough call. There's so many.
There's Ricky Ponting, there's Sangakkara, there's Jayawardene, there's Shane Watson.
I would look at David Warner for the sheer number
Fair.
of years.
Yeah.
And then
And captain
won a
trophy
title.
as
So
well,
that would be my fifth choice. But there are so many who have, I'm reluctant to leave out even guys like Michael Hussey or somebody who played for CSK, Adam Gilchrist, 2 seasons for Hyderabad,
Yeah.
won the second time.
Correct.
You know.
In South Africa, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that team, I mean, number of overseas players, Andrew Simons, Shahid Afridi, Adam Gilchrist,
Right.
young Rohit Sharma playing for Deccan Chargers at that point in time. So, I mean, just made the tournament just come alive, this kind of talent.
Muralidharan.
Muralidharan, yes.
We can do this show for 3 hours. We'll keep remembering. Names will come later and
Wayne
later.
Bravo, as you mentioned, or
Wayne
Kyron
Bravo,
Pollard. You know.
Pollard, yes. So that's it. That's a whole lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you said 5, so I've given you 5.
Fair. If you had to name one as the player of IPL from foreign shores.
It would be a toss-up for me between between the top 3 I mentioned. Because people tend to think of Chris Gayle because of his persona also, not just his big hitting. He was such a crowd puller. A.B. de Villiers, for the admiration he evoked, after years and years of performing at that level so consistently. And then Malinga. I mean, if you've been to Wankhede when Mumbai Indians were playing and Malinga got the ball.
You think he's a real Mumbaiker. He was a real Mumbaiker for a long period
and
of
he
time.
was also character with, with his fuzzy hair and
the personality as well as the performer.
I'm very reluctant to leave him out because otherwise bowlers don't get their due. But he was remarkable for the titles that Mumbai won. He had a big role to play, at least in the first couple.
Yeah. No, and like we said, his imprint is there because the next generation followed him, the Yorkers, the
you don't have to push me into picking one of those 3. I would still remain. I would go with all 3.
Okay. I would, if we had more time, ask you to name your 11 across all the IPL so far from 2007 to 2025 as we approach it. Your top 11, but that takes a little while to do.
I'll give you my captain, Shane Warne.
That's no question. I would put him as captain for all sides. I think
as an overseas player who captained.
Yeah.
There's not too many overseas players who've captained. Huh?
Right.
Ricky Ponting, yes.
David
Occasionally
Warner,
somebody.
Sangakkara and Jayawardene.
Yeah. I mean, one of the guys who made actually a good impact here was George Bailey, who captained Punjab and then. He's
went to greater glory and now is the chairman of selectors in Australia.
He's the main guy.
Yeah.
He's the equivalent of the chief selector.
Isn't there a drink named after him?
There's water, I know. Bailey's water.
All right, that's all we have time for. If you're a foreigner and you felt you were left out and not mentioned, please write in to us and I'm sure we'll fit you in at some other point with Ayaz. Right?
All right.
We'll leave you with Ayaz's favorite Shane Warne impression.
Favorite Shane Warne impression?
Yeah.
I interviewed him once for, it was one of those, he had come, I think it was maybe the second last time he came because he passed away prematurely, as we know, very young. And I said, he'd been through a lot of controversy in his career, his life. So I said, the guys who had kind of facilitated the interview said, oh, but you should, send the questions in advance. I said, we don't do that over here, or at least I don't. So they called up Shane. And Shane Warne said, no, I'm open for everything, anything that they want to ask or he wants to ask. And I met him there. So he, once we were on the stage, I said, this is going to be like freewheeling, no holds barred. He says, not at all. That's the way I've lived my life. It's no holds barred for me all the time.
I'll tell you a really funny story. Quickly, I know we're running out of time with Shane Warne, is that he was, Pranav Kakkar, the famous ad guru, had got him down to shoot an ad film before one of the World Cups as one of the main, brand ambassadors. And so they're waiting on the set for him to come from Melbourne, Victoria to Mumbai. And someone's waiting at the airport to pick him and bring him to the hotel and then quickly take him to the set because it's very tight. And then they get a call from the airport in the afternoon because no one can trace him. And he's been held up in the Mumbai airport because he came to Mumbai without a visa.
Oh! How did he leave the place?
But
I must tell you, since you remind me, we did commentary together in the Champions Trophy in 2013.
Which we won,
Which we won. And Shane Warne was among the commentators. And, he was known for his very busy nights that he would be spending not on the cricket field.
Right.
And he came in the morning to the commentary box and took his schedule, what time he has to go on air and stuff like that. Commentary was going on. This guy, where the media was seated, he found some space under that. He went in, had a cat nap for 25-30 minutes, woke up, went and started doing commentary. And he was just all there. So he lived life in the fast lane. He was quite remarkable, but always great fun to be with.
Shane Keith Warne, Ayaz Memon, and God knows.